Welcome to Two Poor Artists, where we're poor in the force, but mostly we're poor at making art. I'm Isaac.
And I'm Benj. So you can probably tell by our use of the word force that we are talking about Star Wars today.
Oh, I thought we were talking about like the principle you learn in physics.
Oh, yes. Mass times acceleration.
That changes everything.
Yep.
But
the title of what we're drawing is mass times acceleration.
no, we are talking about Star Wars this week because we have just gotten finished with watching the first two episodes of the new Obi-Wan Kenobi show.
Yep, and we didn't want to draw Obi-Wan because we just didn't want to.
Yeah, I mean, that's too specific. It leaves no room for interpretation or artistic creativity.
Yes.
Like, I'm sure, yes, there's like people who have drawn Obi-Wan like in, different styles of art, but first of all, if we did it in our style, you'd never even know it was him. And second of all, much more you can do with just Star Wars in general, and we've never actually drawn that, so.
Yep. Very true. Very, very true.
See, now, like, Star Wars has been a big thing in this world for going on, like, 50 years now. Back all the way from the 70s, when our parents watched it in movie theaters as little kids, to when we watched it in theaters as little kids with episode 1, 2, and 3, to where now kids are growing up with episodes 7, 8, and 9, and they have no idea how lucky they are to have, like, animated shows and live action shows and 9 movies. There's just so much Star Wars stuff all of a sudden. And I'm not just talking about, like, the people who grew up in, like, the 80s, 70s, 80s. They're like, oh, there was lots of Star Wars stuff then. We had the movies. We had the Christmas special that nobody wants to talk about. And, 500 really bad books that didn't really make a lot of sense because they didn't actually talk to each other when they wrote them. But now there's a lot of good Star Wars stuff. It's all tied together.
Yeah, well, you say really good.
Okay. I knew this was coming because, unfortunately, Benj is not a huge Star Wars fan. In fact, I would probably say he's not really a Star Wars fan of any kind.
I mean, that's not true. Like, I go and see every movie, right?
Yeah, of course.
And arguably, I like most of the movies more than actual Star Wars fans. See, the problem with Star Wars is that they have the best, like, premise of, like, any universe. And then every movie they make somehow, like, doesn't use that premise and also ruins everything.
Now, that is a very harsh judgment. And I would say, because it is, like, a popular thing to just hate on Star Wars, right? Like, there are different, like, groups of people who call themselves Star Wars fans. There's those people who are like, oh, everything after episode 5 was just crap. And then there's those people who are like, no, just the prequels were terrible. And then there's those people who are like, no. Episode, 7 through 9, the sequels were all terrible. And they're all just different shades of wrong. Because if you're a real Star Wars fan, like me, you like all of Star Wars. Sure, you acknowledge some parts were better and some parts were worse. Like, episode 8 was just terrible because it seems like the writer just decided to take everything fans wanted and do the opposite. But if you're a real Star Wars fan, you kind of just roll with the punches and you just kind of like what you can.
How horrible?
No, it's not. It's not horrible that often. Like, aside from episode 8, I love, like, everything else they've done. Sure, there are things that could be better, but you could say that about anything. We say that about superhero movies all the time, and yet we're still huge Marvel fans and DC fans.
See, I don't know if I'm a huge Marvel fan anymore.
Okay, you're a huge DC fan, and yet we can admit there are problems with the DC movies.
Like, I was a huge Marvel fan, but it's become harder and harder to consider myself that.
Okay, but that doesn't negate that Star Wars in and of itself is good.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, Star Wars, like I said, it's one of the best, like, universes
it is
to exist. It's just, you know, like they're so inconsistent with things. You know,
That
like
is kind of true.
like we'll watch like in the cartoons, you know, like you'll watch
Which
in
are great.
like like the Clone Wars cartoon, you'll see like a Jedi Master take out like an army of, you know, whatever they're fighting,
Mm-hmm.
mostly robots. But then like two stormtroopers in episode 3 kill that same Jedi Master, and you're like, what? Like we literally watched this person take out an army, but two stormtrooper or clone troopers
Yeah.
are enough to take them out.
There are definitely
Like,
some inconsistencies in Star Wars. Like there are certain things like that just have to happen in Star Wars, especially when you're talking about like the prequel movies. There were things that like had to happen. Anakin Skywalker had to turn evil.
yeah.
So how do they do it? Well, he also has to be likable so that you
Mhm.
feel bad when he turns evil. So he's just likable and pretty much good up until the second he just turns super evil.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to see any like build to that. It's a little bit easier if you watch some of the cartoon shows, which if you haven't, you really should go out there and watch all of Clone Wars and Rebels and all the great Star Wars animated shows. But in the actual movies, it just feels kind of rushed. I'll admit that.
Mm-hmm. But see, the thing is, it is possible to do prequels well.
It's true.
And they didn't. You know, that's what I'm saying. Like,
I like the prequels, though.
See, I did too. Like, I like episode 1, 2, and 3. They were good. But they didn't make episode 4 better by existing, which is what a prequel's job is. Like, you're supposed to look at that and be like, oh man, I feel so much more about these characters because of that.
Yeah.
And it didn't do that.
Hey, you cared a lot more about Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
it was hard to...
Obi-Wan was like the main character of the prequels.
He is, for sure.
And like they did a decent job with him, and it's like, okay, you kind of care a little bit more about his death than him just being the nameless wizard.
Yeah, exactly.
But it didn't. I don't know. Like it could have done so much more. You could have cared. You could have cared about so much more.
Like in any franchise as big as this, you're gonna find fault with certain things not linking up, especially because there's just so much time in between them.
Mm-hmm.
Like George Lucas really was Star Wars for the first 6 movies. Like he wrote them, he directed them, he had every say. It ended with him, and people complained about the prequels because like they weren't as good as people thought they should have been. But that was still his like idea, and for better or worse, he did a good job of like bringing it to light.
Yeah.
But there's also like a huge gap in between them. It's also weird because movies that are supposed to be, older had way better effects and cooler fighting, and they were able to do more with them. So it feels kind of weird when you go from 1, 2, and 3, and then you go to like watching puppets and things in 4, 5, and 6. It just has a weird feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I feel like when Disney bought them, they had this idea of like, all right, well, we just need to get a bunch of different people involved, and they'll kind of take it in the directions they want. And that kind of messed up, in my opinion, at least the sequels. Because they gave episode 7 to J.J. Abrams, and he did a decent job with it. Then they're like, all right, we need to just give it to another guy. So they gave it to Rian Johnson. And like I said, I feel like when he directed and wrote episode 8, he just took everything the fans were hoping for and was like, all right, how can I do the opposite so that like nobody can guess what's going to happen? And the problem with that is, like, he just got lazy with the story because he was like, oh, what do we do with this main bad guy? Well, we'll kill him really quick. Mm-hmm. It won't even matter.
Yeah, there's all these theories about
all these cool theories. Yeah, so
none of them.
So he could have run with that, but he instead just kind of derailed things. And then J.J. Abrams picked back up with episode 9 and just kind of had to fix things.
Mm-hmm.
So what really I think is saving Star Wars now, though, is they kind of did what Marvel did, where they kind of gave it to like 1 or 2 guys, and they're like, all right, you guys need to take the helm and just like take every story and make sure it all fits together nice and neatly. And they gave it over to Dave Filoni, who's the guy who did all the Clone Wars show with George Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave it to Jon Favreau, who is now like the executive producer of all of Star Wars. So like having these 2 guys who are like, decently good Star Wars fans, they can kind of take it and match it up with the stuff that's been done in the past. And I think they've done a pretty decent job so far of like keeping it on track and keeping it all working together with Mandalorian show, with Clone Wars, with Rebels, with this Obi-Wan show. We're gonna get the Andor show. We're gonna get an Ahsoka show. So they're taking it in a good direction, I think.
Right.
But it's hard because it's just, like I said, we're going on 50 years now of this franchise that has had so much stuff that I think it's just been hard to like keep it all. And you're never gonna make everybody happy. Speaking of that, what the heck are we looking at?
I think it's pretty obvious.
This is the Kool-Aid Man. And
I don't know how to do. I also realize now that I did like the I is like,
what is that letter supposed to be? A G?
Yeah, but it's like, why did I do the I lowercase?
It's just an artistic choice.
Every other letter, I can guarantee you, is going to be capital.
So you have sun and the planet fighting, also called stars. The Star Wars.
This is what Star Wars should have been.
You think anybody goes to like a Star Wars movie for the first time and is just like, wait, the stars aren't fighting?
Going and seeing like episode 1, and I was like, wait a second, what are these pod racers?
What are these humans?
Yeah, I was expecting this.
No one.
Like,
no one is.
Cool this is. There's like the cool sun with the sunglasses with his gun, and then there's this planet with swords.
Can you imagine like moving from somewhere where like no one has experienced Star Wars and coming to the United States and seeing like all the Star Wars stuff for the first time, and it not being this, thankfully. This is like two dudes in wife beater shirts, like street fighting. One of them has a giant sword for some reason. They hold just the tip up.
I'll fix that.
It kind of looks surprisingly like the Kool-Aid Man too.
Which one?
The one on the left.
The sun?
Yeah, like if he wasn't radiating light, I would totally think he was just the Kool-Aid Man.
He's like the Kool-Aid Man filled with radioactive juices.
The new flavor, radioactive juice. Sounds like something Mountain Dew would do.
Star Wars.
Well, see, for any fault you might have with Star Wars, it could have been worse.
Could have been this.
Could have been this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Star Wars could have been worse. Like, I don't want to make it sound like I'm not a fan of Star Wars, because I watched all the movies, and like I enjoy them.
Yeah.
It's just they could be so much better.
I think that's just like a general opinion about any franchise. Like, they always could be better. Except Lord of the Rings.
Well, yeah, like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, I wouldn't change like anything. You know what I mean? And then like the book series, you know, like Narnia. Like Narnia did prequels good. You know, like the what was it? What was the prequel of that one? The Magician's Nephew.
Oh yeah, you mean like the books?
Yeah.
Well,
so
yeah,
I said book.
Yeah, but like that's different than movies. The Narnia movies were not, in my opinion, were a far cry from the books.
Oh, I really liked them.
See, but they're not.
They weren't the same, but they changed things that needed to be changed for it to be a movie.
Someday we'll draw Narnia, and I'll go on my rant about all the things that they left out of those books.
Star Wars, there wasn't books beforehand.
It's true.
They were allowed to write whatever they wanted. Like, I mean, they wrote books, but they were allowed to write whatever they wanted, and they didn't write a particularly good story.
See, I'm optimistic though that after episode 9 was over, that like everything moving forward, hopefully get some original stuff out there.
Well, see, that's the other problem is they keep trying to like fill in these small gaps in time. Like this Obi-Wan show, it should have been like, in my opinion, it should have been like a Qui-Gon Jinn show and been about before, where they could have done whatever they wanted.
Hey, they'll still do that. They still have time.
Yeah.
And now that they can just de-age people,
they should just be like, hey, let's do in a different galaxy. You know, same rules, same universe. The Force still exists, but it's completely unrelated to anything.
In 10 years or so, they're going to run out of content for all this stuff.
Like, well, this is the show about Owen in between the episode 3 and Obi-Wan.
Nope.
And then this is the show about,
I think that's a testament to how good what George Lucas made was, because they're like, we can't go away from that because people loved it so much. Yes, like, they're afraid to.
And I understand that, and it is good. But they need to go away from it.
And I think they will. Give them, like I said, give them time, and they'll have to start writing some original ideas that, for better or worse, which I think will be better. I think just seeing some original stuff in those worlds will be cool.
Yeah. But you should get over here and start drawing, and then we can continue this conversation.
All right, let's do it. Got to get the drawing glove on for protection.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be unprotected
from the
trauma that happens to your hand.
Have you seen the Bourne Identity kill someone with a pen?
But he didn't kill his hand.
He stuck it in the other guy's hand.
But he wasn't just holding a pen, and then his hand just fell apart.
I'm just saying, there's the potential for hands to be damaged by pens.
See, you could have made a Star Wars joke about how everyone's hands gets cut off, since we're drawing Star Wars.
My hands. Gotta get my drawing glove on so that my hand doesn't get cut off like Anakin's and Luke's did.
And Mace Windu.
And his. You can never be too safe.
Mm-hmm.
Only they'd had a drawing glove.
Yep, would have saved them.
Is that better?
Some Beskar drawing gloves.
Beskar drawing gloves. That'd be so sweet. So sweet. All right, I have got it. I have got.
You know what you're gonna draw?
I know what I'm gonna draw. I originally had a different idea.
Mm-hmm.
As we discussed, I was originally gonna draw celebrities,
right?
Stars, like a rock star,
yeah,
a pop star.
Yeah, got to go with the other pun,
movie star. But
mm-hmm.
There would have been some good puns with that. This is where we need a third person to just show up.
Yes,
because they could draw two stars fighting
with
their, the Walk of Fame where they have those stars in the ground that has their names on them.
Oh yeah,
they could have been fighting.
Oh, there with their stars.
Yeah, how come you got a star and I didn't get a star?
And
these movie stars fighting about stars,
right?
Star Wars.
I get it.
But that's not what I'm drawing. That honestly might be better than what I'm gonna draw.
Well, I mean, do we ever draw the best things we could?
We do not, Bench.
See, I think of our drawing channel as kind of like Star Wars as a whole. We have some decent ideas, but then we just don't really do it justice.
That's fair. I can't possibly argue with that because it's so true.
Yep.
Let's see if
we mentioned that we watched.
Oh gosh.
Perfect.
No, it's not perfect. Oh well, it's what I got.
Yep. Yeah, we mentioned we watched the Obi-Wan show, which was a good show.
It was.
I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Because it was Star Wars.
But I will say that it would have been better if it was just about an awesome Obi-Wan and not a depressed Obi-Wan.
Hey, spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers of the beginning.
You try killing your best friend after he goes evil suddenly.
I would gladly.
Hey. Watch it.
You ever turn evil?
You sounded too eager.
I will gladly end you.
There's so much eagerness in your voice. It's
how are you gonna connect this? Is it gonna be more than? Oh man, look at this extra points on the star. This is a 6-point star.
He's already so bad.
See, I glanced over at your references here, and I still don't know what you're drawing.
I don't have any references for this. I don't even know how to draw the simple shape.
Well, see, that's the thing. As far as the reference I saw was just how to draw the simple shape, and you didn't do that. So,
yeah, it's gonna be rough.
mm-hmm.
Where do the eyes go on these? I know they don't have them, so it's I can put them wherever I want.
Oh, is that not like a mask that covers the eyes?
No, it's not a mask. It's
Like a headband.
yeah.
I mean, assuming the eyes are on the head, then that's
a mouth.
Mm. See, I thought that was like where the eyes would go, and so then I was thinking, oh, these are like ninja starfishes.
They are starfishes, and that's like a headband, like a ninja.
Ninjas don't wear headbands.
They wear okay. It's
They
like
wear.
he's like Chuck Norris.
They wear it over their eyes,
Chuck
like
Norris.
masks. Like,
He's
haven't
like
you
a-
ever seen the Ninja Turtles?
Oh gosh.
They wear it over their eyes. They got to keep their identity secret. You wouldn't want to know they're, Michelangelo, the giant turtle.
Yeah, them wearing masks is the dumbest thing.
You got to keep their
That's literally
secret identity.
That's literally just Master Splinter being like, okay, guys, I need to be able to tell you apart.
It's all look the same.
Ninjas wear multicolored headbands.
Here's your red and orange headbands.
Master Splinter was like an old rat, man. Even got even worse. It's like, I'm forgetting how to spell their names. Quick, you have to wear the letter that your name starts with on your
belt.
Your belt.
Yeah.
Okay.
The letter and the color.
Yes, that way no one will know who you are. Like
Keep
a
it a
ninja.
secret.
Yeah.
Sneak in the shadows with your multicolored thing and your flashy weapons.
Exactly. Mr. Splinter's questionable at best. This guy has different shaped eyes.
I thought these were like bushy eyebrows. Like this was his ninja mentor, Starfish.
Oh, that sounds great, actually. But no.
Oh, this one's worried and or sad. He's as depressed as Obi-Wan is in the new show.
Hey, you're still giving spoilers.
I've said one thing about it.
That is one spoiler too many. You don't give away his feelings. That's huge. Anyway. So, Obi-Wan's pretty... I mean, like, no one went into that show thinking he was going to be happy.
No, I wasn't expecting him to be happy. I was just expecting him to be like the best Jedi because that's what he was.
He is the best Jedi.
Not in the show.
Like, they always talk about how, like, Mace Windu and Yoda were better than him. It's like, what did they ever do?
Yeah.
Compared to him?
I mean, he beat Anakin in a fight.
Yeah, exactly.
And at the exact same time, Yoda lost to Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah. Old. Like, it doesn't make any sense that Palpatine is, like, so agile.
Although, also, that fight was also weird because, like, Yoda was clearly winning and then he just, like, ran away.
It's because he had to lose. That's what we were saying. We just watched episode 3 before we watched Obi-Wan. We're like, what if Yoda just won?
Yeah.
Like
both Yoda and Obi-Wan just won. And that's the end.
Like, if it was a
Episode
trilogy,
4, 5, and 6.
If it was a trilogy, it would, like, all lead up to that.
Yeah. And
then they'd
actually,
win.
that would have been a great story because then it would have been like, oh, the bad guys are scheming for 3 movies, doing all this stuff, and then the good guys just win.
Yeah,
They're just like, they're just better.
Just better fighters.
Yeah,
like,
they're
that's
just-
all it boiled down
Yeah.
to.
Just like, oh yeah, you have all this great scheme. You took over the galaxy. You took over, everything. But Yoda's just better than you.
That would have been pretty cool. Too bad they didn't have the ability to do that,
Mace Windu also beat Emperor Palpatine in a fight.
They make Mace Windu super cool, mostly because he's just Samuel L. Jackson.
Especially like for anybody that's watched the old cartoon for the Clone Wars, like the one that was like in 5-minute segments.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Like Mace Windu in that took out like an army of droids, and it was awesome. And then he like beat General Grievous.
It's true.
Like the reason General Grievous is like wheezing in episode 3 is because Mace Windu like collapsed his like ribs.
Whole body.
Yeah.
These are
ninja stars.
harder to draw with the pen than I expected. Oh, that was
The wrong way.
shoot.
This is the unique version of a ninja star.
It's broken. Oh gosh, it's so hard to do this for some reason.
It's called art. It's just a hard thing to do.
So bad looking.
Just none of that connects well. So like a second ninja star.
It helps explain.
It's worse than the first.
Colliding.
It's breaking apart because it's colliding.
It's a mixture of them colliding and breaking apart and the speed at which they're moving. Here, I'll draw some speed lines. Yeah.
How come that one ninja star, like the one he's holding, I guess you could call it, is like so much different from all the other ones?
He just has a very wide variety of like Batman. He has multiple different batarangs.
Right.
These guys have multiple different ninja stars.
Oh, okay.
And yeah. So we'll get to see what the war's about now.
Is this like a war between the 6-pointed starfish and the 5-pointed starfish?
No, it has to do with fusion of wording. He's saying, starfish. He's saying, no, we're sea stars.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
It's like, I feel like as a kid, we always called them starfish. And then at some point, people were like, actually, they're sea stars. There's no such thing as a starfish because they're not a fish. They're actually a spiny skin creature, almost like a sea cucumber.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody call them a sea star.
Apparently, that's what you're supposed to call them.
I mean, I can see that. Like you said, sea cucumbers. They're more like that than fish.
Yeah, but people like care about this too much.
I don't think they do. As I said, I've never heard anybody make that.
I feel like I may have had one conversation about this where someone cared once, and now I feel like it's a common.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, some people care about things.
Like Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I care about Star Wars. I'm going to like Star Wars pretty much no matter what. But the thing is, like, Star Wars does something pretty well, despite, like, your actual caring about, like, the problems in the movies, is they do a really good job of, like, building interesting characters for the most part.
Yeah.
The movies do, like, a tiny little glimpse into their lives, but that's why people who are, like, serious Star Wars fans, they, like, read the books and the comics, and they, like, they get into it a lot because there's a lot of character.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, the universe is really good.
Yeah.
The whole Force as a whole is, like, really cool and intricate.
It's really neat.
And how it's, like, feelings based, but also kind of not. And then, like, the characters are super cool. It's just, when you watch the movies, the story is always, like, that's not quite as good as it should have been.
It's true.
Like, it didn't quite do this character that you made so cool justice.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, it's just slightly short. And like, just enough where it's like, oh, I enjoyed that, but I'm a little bit disappointed.
That seems fair.
Yeah.
That seems fair. But at least it wasn't this. Because this would have been a worse movie.
Yes.
See, that's like what someone needs to do. They need to, like, make a movie that's about planets fighting and starfish fighting. And then, like, find someone who's never heard of Star Wars. Like, the one, like, your kids. Like, growing up. We've talked about this, just the two of us before. But, like, when you have a kid and you're raising a kid, like, you can raise that kid to think anything is normal.
Yeah.
Like,
very true. Like, you put on your left pant leg, and then your left sock, then your left shoe. Then you put on your right pant leg, your right sock, and your right shoe.
And, like, no one would, they'd never know that that's not like the weirdest thing ever.
Like until they got married.
Until they got married or like moved out and got a roommate or something. Like they'd be like, what the heck are you doing? Why is that how you get dressed? And I'd be like, I don't understand.
This is how everybody
does it. My whole family does it.
Yeah.
And I go, okay. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you do that with Star Wars too. Like you get this whole idea that Star Wars is like the greatest, and everyone in school's talking about Star Wars, and there's all these posters, and then you like show them this movie.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah.
It's like all the characters' names are the same.
Yeah.
So that when people are like talking about it,
someone needs to make like a fan film that's just like starfish and like the planets fighting, and like, yes, Obi-Wan, the Sun Man, fighting against the evil Emperor Starfish. Like, yeah, it'd be so dumb.
Except what it should be, just to make only one movie, Starfish versus planets and stars.
That'd be great. Star Wars.
Yeah. Like giant starfish, like the villain in DC.
Oh yeah, like Starro.
Yeah,
just like eating planets, and the planets like.
Yeah,
that is a movie I would watch.
We'll have to animate it ourselves with our amazing animation skills.
Stay tuned for that wondrous piece of film. But until next time, we hope you go and watch the new Obi-Wan show.
Yep, it is definitely worth watching.
See you next time.
Bye.
As always, we're surprised you made it this far into our video.
There's no way we could possibly ask you to subscribe to this atrocity, so we won't.
We would say share it with your friends, but it's probably better for wasting your enemy's time.
We're probably not going to get any better, but we will keep drawing.
See you next time.